Hello everybody! Welcome back to another deck tech today. So, you may have already seen this deck in action. This is self-driving cars for Pioneer.
The deck that'll make Elon Musk proud.
It definitely will. So, yeah, as you can probably tell, this deck is based around a lot of vehicles and not a lot of ways to crew them, but we'll get to that. So, at 1, we have a 1-mana 7/11 with crew 6, which is never actually getting crewed, but it's a 1-mana 7/11, which is pretty impressive. So that's our 1. On 2s, we have Heart of Kiran, which of course, Flying Vigilance, crew 3, and you can remove loyalty counters from Planeswalkers to activate it. We do have some of those, as we will get to. Then 4 copies of Smuggler's Copter, just a really good vehicle.
It's a looter scooter.
Looter scooter, you know?
It just helps you filter if you have too many lands, if you have too little lands.
Yeah.
Just helps out.
So I'm actually gonna go over the rest of the vehicles first. So we have 4 copies of Peacewalker Colossus. This is one of your main ones because it has the ability to animate fellow vehicles with the cost of white and a colorless. Yeah. So then we have Mizium Tank, which of course will turn into a creature on its own accord, and crew 1 is totally reasonable to be able to do in this deck. So it's just there for filling, really.
Yes, and you have enough non-creatures. Like, all the other vehicles are non-creatures.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It'll activate most turns.
Everything except for this is non-creature, so pretty good. Then we have 2 copies of Sky Sovereign, Consul Flagship, which is a big finishing vehicle. It's a 6/5, it deals 3 damage when it enters or attacks, so it's sort of like a Titan in a way, but yeah, it's pretty sweet. So then ways to turn these vehicles into creatures, because as I've stated many times, they're very hard to actually crew. You don't really have a lot of creatures in this deck. So you do that with Siege Modification, which is an enchantment that can turn a vehicle into a creature, give it +3/+0 and first strike. So all of a sudden you have a 10/11 with first strike. Pretty solid. And then, of course, Start Your Engines, which animates all of your vehicles, and you're going to want to be plopping these out quite a bit. Animates all of them, gives them +2/+0. It's a very strong overrun type effect. So those are your primary ways to win the game. And then we have other supplementary things here. So we have Sram, 4 copies. I like to think of this deck as sort of as his garage, and this is his fleet of vehicles. You know?
Yeah, just working on all different varieties.
Just tinkering with them. Like, I'm trying to get them all foiled out. So far I've got all these foiled, but working on it. He's doing
are all
his best.
foiled.
Yep. Sram is not, because he's not that special. His collection is. But yeah, anyway,
he spends all the time polishing them up.
Exactly. No polish left for his self. That sounds dirty. Anyway, whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle, you get to draw a card. Conveniently, most of the deck is vehicles, and the parts of the deck that aren't vehicles, some of them are enchantments. So, you actually get to draw quite a few cards off of this bad boy. Just chaining these into these, pretty solid. Then we have 3 Saheeli, Sublime Artificers, which, conveniently, all your vehicles are non-creature spells, so it comes with a servo. And you can have some pretty wacky shenanigans with Saheeli's -2 ability, turning... Let's say, for instance, we have a Siege Modification on a Consulate Dreadnought. If your opponent has, like, a token blocker, you can use Saheeli to transform the Dreadnought into one of these other flying vehicles, like probably not that one because it's legendary, but like Smuggler's Copter. It's a good one, for instance, and that can let you actually get over the top.
It gives you the option to go over the top, and then it still keeps the +3/+0 from the thing, so then it's a 6/3 flying.
Yeah. And the top ability, if you don't have any of these animation effects, you can maybe get there with tokens.
Yeah. Well, it also just helps you make sure between Sram and Saheeli you have tons of ways to crew the looter scooter and of course him. Mm-hmm. And then once you get multiple, of course you can go crew, or you can put vehicles in vehicles, and
which is always
do all kinds of things. And it just provides you the chump blockers until all of a sudden you just start your engines, dump the vehicles on them.
Yeah, so pretty solid card, and it triggers on everything. And important for Mox Amber, which we'll get to. So then we have 4 copies of Nahiri. Now this card isn't like super synergistic in the deck, it's just a really good card. Not a lot to say about it.
Provides another way of filtering through your deck, and then it can also deal with problematic
And if you absolutely need to, if you get her up to 8, you can always go down 8, grab like a Sky Sovereign to finish them off, because she can find an artifact or creature.
Yeah.
So that's not terrible.
But mostly there to just help with like Heart of Kirin.
Yep, smoothing, and the minus ability is pretty handy if there's anything that
having removal is always a good idea.
Yeah,
and she's kind of the primary for your deck. The other being Skyship.
Yes. Yes, which is not the most efficient removal spell, let's just put it that way. So anyway, we have 4 copies of Mox Amber, so this is quite a few Mox Ambers. Especially considering, this deck isn't like pure legends or anything. But they do have 4 Srams, 4 Nahiris, and 3 Saheelis to trigger off of, which is pretty decent. And, of course, they also help with Saheeli's top ability, getting you servos. They can help with Mizium Tank to get that out early. So there are some uses, even if they just don't really do much most of the time. But I think it's a little better than lands, just some random lands, because this deck does only top out at like 5, kind of. So then for lands, we have a full roster of Battlefield Forge, probably one of the best lands in this deck, because you have so many colorless things, you just use the red if you absolutely need it.
You need the red for very few things.
Yeah, just like those cards, really. And white, obviously, also very far and few between. And then we have the 4 Sacred Foundries, of course, a couple Clifftop Retreats, 7 mountains, and 2 plains. And that is Self-Driving Cars.